King David. You know the name, right? The shepherd boy who took on Goliath, this celebrated warrior king. But we're not here today to talk about all the triumphs. This is about what happened after. It's one of history's most powerful stories about failure, about consequences, and ultimately about redemption.
I mean, at his peak, David was a legend, a superstar. People were literally singing songs about him in the streets, you know? Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. But that celebrated king, he became a haunted one. And what haunted him wasn't the clash of swords or the sounds of battle. No, it was a deep, crushing silence, born from a secret that was eating him alive.
So what happened? What could possibly cause such a huge shift in the life of a king like David? Well, it all starts with a single moment of weakness, a private sin that was about to have devastating public consequences. Okay, so picture this. David's at the absolute pinnacle of his reign. His army is out fighting a war, but he decides to stay behind in Jerusalem. From his palace roof, he sees a woman, Bathsheba, and in a complete abuse of his power, he sends for her. He takes her, knowing full well she's married to one of his most loyal soldiers. And right there, that's the first domino to fall. And then, things get so much worse. David finds out Bathsheba is pregnant, so he panics. His first move is to try and cover it all up. But when that plan fails, he goes somewhere truly dark. He arranges for her husband, Uriah, this incredibly faithful, honorable warrior, to be abandoned on the front lines of the very next battle. Just like that, hiding his adultery turned into cold-blooded, premeditated murder. And for a while, it seemed like he actually got away with it. He marries Bathsheba, the child is born, and life, on the surface, moves on. But secrets, especially ones this big, they just don't stay buried. And for David, the truth showed up at his front door in the form of the prophet Nathan. Now, Nathan is clever. He doesn't just walk in and start pointing fingers. He tells David a story, a parable about a rich man who steals a poor man's only precious lamb. David, of course, becomes furious and demands justice for the poor man. And that's when Nathan lowers the boom with those 4 devastating words. You are the man. In that one instant, the king's secret is shattered for all to see. But here's what's so remarkable about David, his reaction. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't try to have Nathan thrown in a dungeon. He just breaks. He completely falls apart. And his raw, gut-wrenching response is captured forever in what we now know as Psalm 51. This isn't a king trying to save his reputation. This is a broken man begging God for a clean heart. So David finds forgiveness, but, and this is a huge but, forgiveness did not just erase the consequences. The prophet Nathan had warned him that because of what he'd done, violence would now become a part of his own household. And what followed was just a painful, tragic fulfillment of that exact prophecy. And the fallout was immediate and it was catastrophic. First, the child he had with Bathsheba dies. Then, the violence he brought upon Uriah's house turns inward, and it starts tearing his own family apart. His son Amnon assaults his half-sister Tamar. Then, in revenge, another son, Absalom, murders Amnon. This horrifying spiral of violence just keeps going until it culminates in Absalom leading a full-blown rebellion to steal the throne from his own father. You see this pattern here? It's like a poetic echo. The consequence, ironically, mirrors the original sin. David's transgression with Bathsheba was done in secret, right? Hidden away. So what does Absalom do? In a defiant, public act of rebellion, he pitches a tent on the very same palace roof and sleeps with his father's concubines in full view of everyone. David's private sin was answered with a shocking public humiliation. This was David's rock bottom. The mighty king, the giant slayer, now forced to flee his own capital city. Shamed and betrayed by his own son, he walks out of Jerusalem barefoot and weeping. A king in exile, paying a heavy price for his choices. But even here, in this place of absolute brokenness, the story doesn't end. In fact, this is where David's journey of redemption really begins. This is where a new kind of legacy gets forged, not in power, but in humility. David does eventually return to his throne, but he's a changed man. He's humbled, he's scarred. And in a really remarkable turn of grace, Bathsheba, the woman from his moment of greatest shame, becomes his queen. And their next son, Solomon, isn't a child of consequence, but a child of promise, beloved by God. And this really gets to the core of David's legacy. It isn't the story of some flawless hero. It's so much more complicated and powerful than that. He's not remembered as a king who never messed up. He's remembered as a king who, after a catastrophic failure, truly understood the depth of his sin and sought forgiveness with everything he had.
You know, the Bible calls David a man after God's own heart. Now, that doesn't mean he was perfect. Not at all. What it means is that when he fell, and boy, did he fall hard, he knew exactly where to turn. He knew to fall on his knees.
And the ultimate redemption in this whole story, it stretches far beyond David's own life. Because from this deeply flawed, broken, but forgiven family line, generations later came Jesus. Grace found a way, even through all the mess. So it leaves us with this question, one that kind of redefines what greatness really is. Is it about achieving a perfect, flawless record? Or is there a deeper, more profound kind of strength that's found in humility, in admitting failure, and in knowing how to get back up?